welcome to this week's Cats Whiskers TV, which will be the last one of this season. We'll of course be looking back at the playoff finals weekend. With Andy away in New York, Paul Balm will join us along with Aaron as usual. We'll be answering some of your Ask CWTV questions and also some of your playoff weekend reflections before we finish the show. But first, let's go back to Saturday and the first day of the playoffs. Sheffield Steelers against Hull Stingrays is the first semi-final, and I'm with a man well known throughout Hull Stingray circles and the Elite League. It's the Hull Stingrays announcer, Paul Carruthers, better known as Scooby. How are you, mate?
Hello.
So, Hull in the semi-final, probably a surprise, but a fantastic victory against Braehead. A tough proposition to get through to the final with playing the Sheffield Steelers. How do you see it going?
It could go one of either way. We could get stage fright, but I don't think we will. Or Sheffield might just come with the mindset that they've already won it, and that's happened a few times to our team this year. Teams have just took us too lightly, and hopefully, I don't think they will, but Sheffield are quite a professional outfit, but hopefully they might do that. We've got two lines. We're going to have to run it with two lines, but we're used to playing two lines. We've played two lines for the best part of 3 months now, since Matty Davis has been injured and Nevato and all them players, and now Knox has gone, so we're down to two lines again, but they're used to playing two lines 30 minutes a game.
Of course, we know you're a very, very proud Stingrays fan, and a lot of people were writing the Stingrays off at the start of the season. There was a lot of people's predictions to finish bottom of the Elite League. They've shown a fantastic team spirit. They've really battled hard in this season. You must be incredibly proud of that.
I'm absolutely, really proud of the team. The way that they've all stuck together. Every single player plays as a unit. They're all a cog in the machine. I've said it all season. This is the best Stingrays team, as in a team that I have seen since the Stingrays franchise started like 11 years ago. It's the best Stingrays team. We've had better players, no doubt. Doucette's a better player than most of the players it's in, but as an actual team, with everybody working as a team unit and as a vital cog in the machine, this team is unbelievably well knitted and well drilled together.
So, quick prediction from you there. What do you think is going to happen this afternoon? Do you think you'll get through to the final?
Yeah, I do think, because everybody's wrote this team off. I've wrote this team out. When I first saw this team in Peterborough in pre-season challenge, I was like, oh my God, what have we got? What have we got? The team full of rookies, they're not playing together. The goalie was out to dry all the time. I'm like, oh, but they're playing as a full unit. We've got no fear. We go 2 goals down, and most teams with like what we call proper imports or experienced imports are like, no, we're 2 goals down, that's it. This team doesn't know when it's beat. And like last week when we was a goal down, then Braehead scored to make it 2-0 in aggregate. I thought that's the best thing that's happened to us, because then we play our normal game, which is attacking. Because when you're 1 goal down, you're still not trying to make mistakes. But when we're 2 goals down, like we was last week, they go for it, and they go for it big style, and they go and attack, and people can't, and teams can't judge our speed. We've got some of the fastest skaters in the league, and in Eric Galbraith, I think we've got the best power forward in the league. And if he's still in the Stingray shirt next season, I'll be amazed, because I think every single team in the league will be after his signature. Is that good?
Well, good luck, mate. From a personal point of view, I hope you make it through to the next round, otherwise I'm not going home tonight.
Can you imagine the videos I'll make this week if I win it?
I can only imagine. Thanks for joining us, mate. Appreciate it.
No problem.
From the Sheffield Steelers' point of view, I'm joined by Scott Antcliffe.
Hiya, how you doing, alright?
Yeah, very well, thanks, mate. So, Hull Stingrays in the semi-final. I think most people are expecting Steelers to progress to the final, but how do you see it?
I think we can't take the Stingrays lightly. They've got a young, hungry team. They've got some great forwards. You've got Lauzon, you've got Corey Tanaka, great forwards like that who want to win. They're young, they're hungry, they're quick, they could capitalise, they could hit the Steelers on the break, and I think they're their only sort of weakness is really their goaltender, David Brown. I think if we get a couple past him early on, I think we should have no problems. But I think if Stingrays get the first goal, then I think it could be an interesting game. But I don't think it'll be the easy walkover game what a lot of people think it'll be. So I think it'll be a close, tough game because Stingrays will be hungry.
Of course, we all know the plaudits that the Steelers' top line have had throughout the whole season. Underneath that, though, a lot of people say that if you stop the Steelers' first line, you generally stop the Sheffield Steelers. Is that something you agree with? Is that something you think Hull will target?
I think at one point I would have agreed with that. I think when we had this sort of tough spell over the Christmas period, I think our top line was our most consistent line. I think we didn't really have many sort of secondary scorers. But I think now that's the second line with Mosienko, Dowd. I think that second line is equally just as big, and it comes up at really big times for us. Comes up with some crucial goals. So I think a while ago it was the case, but now I don't think it is the case. I think second line will do well today.
So neck on the block time. How do you see the game going?
I think the Steelers will win, but I don't think it'll be a massive sort of massive result. I think it'll be maybe 4-2 Steelers, something like that. It'll be fairly close.
Thanks for your time, mate.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So it ended Sheffield Steelers 3, Hull Stingrays 2 in very controversial circumstances. I'm with Aaron, Adam and Paul to talk about that game, and that was pretty unlucky on Hull, Aaron.
Putting it mildly there, Jono, for me. The best team lost through a dodgy call, for me, which was incorrect, and had the opportunity of a review. So from my personal point of view, I'm not impressed. I think the Elite League has let themselves down there, and if I was a Hull fan, I'd be very, very disappointed.
Adam, Sheffield seemed to come into that game thinking they only had to turn up to win, and Hull gave them a pretty big fright. Is that how you saw it?
Yeah, absolutely. Hull really gave it everything that they'd got. Numerically they were up against it because they didn't have as many skaters, but I thought that every single person that wore a Hull top tonight was absolutely fantastic. They were really giving everything for the cause, and like Aaron was saying there, to have it all boil down to that last decision, I thought it was really unlucky on them. So yeah, hard luck for Hull. I think Steelers going through, I kind of expected it, but I didn't think it'd happen in those kind of circumstances.
And we've got the soundtrack on the background now as I come to Mr. Paul Balm. Steelers now go through to the final. After a game like that, you think it's pretty much written on that they will win the trophy?
Well, you could argue that, but I think it all depends on the second game. The game coming up depends if it's a tight game, then yeah, you're going to look at it and think Sheffield, they've got the extra time, they've got to prepare, to recover. But if it's if a walkover one way or the other, then it could be very interesting tomorrow. But well, you don't want to get too involved and too angry about these things, but you've got to look at that. I mean, I'm looking at Twitter, looking at things, and it's not just Panthers fans saying that there's something wrong there, or they got something wrong there. You look at the people that are saying things, the people who've played the game. I mean, you were talking to Sam Oakford coming out, and he said it was never a penalty in the first place. Sorry to drop Sam in it, but you wonder, but we'll see tomorrow, I guess.
Aaron, I'll give the final word to you. Sheffield now through to the final. Coventry Belfast coming up. Who do you think will give them the toughest game?
Well, on that display, either Belfast or Coventry. Because I don't think the Steelers turned up at all, to be honest. I totally agree with what you said earlier on. I thought they turned up thinking that they'd just, turn up and win. And I have to give massive credit to the Hull Stingrays, but you have to think that maybe Coventry, they're reliant on whether Stewart puts in a 100% performance. So if you're looking at a team game, then you'd go Belfast. But I still have a sneakily feeling for Coventry. But on that display that I've just seen there, if I was a Belfast fan or a Coventry fan, I would just say to my team, grit, determination, willing, and you will beat that Steelers team.
So the final is the Sheffield Steelers against the Coventry Blaze after Coventry Blaze beat the Belfast Giants on penalty shots. Not the greatest of games, and I've got Ian Braisby, Adam Reddish and Paul Balm to try and make something out of that game and fill a few minutes of this podcast. So Ian, I'll come to you first. Not one that will live in the memory, that.
No, it was a fairly boring dull game, to be honest. Both teams cancelled each other out. Obviously Belfast heavily outshot the Blaze, especially in the first two periods, but Stewart did what he did pretty much against the Panthers and got the Blaze through again, and so full credit to him for that. But overall very disappointing, especially after the exciting and real playoff hockey in the first semi.
Adam, Kevin Westgarth didn't ice a shift from what I can remember in that game, and you've got to question why, because although he's had a lot of criticism from the Belfast Giants this season, here's a guy who's won a Stanley Cup very, very recently for the LA Kings. He knows all about playoff hockey. Did that one surprise you?
It certainly did. I mean, like you say, he's a vastly experienced player. You think that come playoff time he's got a lot of skills and experience to bring to the party, but tonight obviously not used much at all, so it's a really big surprise actually. I thought that he might be one of those players, those real impact players that would come alive at these kind of situations and really spur his team on to get through the semi and get to the final and maybe win it, but it's just not really worked out for him, has it, in Belfast this season, from what I gather. It's been a bit of a disappointment, and I think that in time Belfast fans will look back and they won't really remember Kevin Westgarth with much fondness, really.
Paul, Coventry's equalising goal scored by Jeremy Tenner, and he's another one who's come in for an awful lot of criticism over the season, but he's very much cometh the hour, cometh the man, and he was there in the right place at the right time.
That's what playoff hockey's all about, isn't it? Look at 2007, Rashdo, saving all them penalty shots. But it's like we were talking about during the game, that was Tendler's 17th goal of the season. And for somebody, I think for a large part, especially under Mark Lefebvre, they were playing him wrong. He's not your grinding sort of player. He's the sort of player who scores goals like that. Getting in the dirty places, waiting for those rebounds and just putting them over. That's what he did.
So, guys, we've got Sheffield against Coventry tomorrow. How do you see that one going? Ian, I'll come to you first.
Well, I guess we're all going to probably say the same thing. Head says Sheffield, heart kind of says we'd like Coventry to do it. Personally, I don't know whether Stewart has got one more big game like that in him. If he has, there's no reason the Blaze can't do it. If he hasn't, then I think we all know what the outcome's going to be.
Adam?
I think that key thing's the Sheffield first line. I mean, if Coventry can shut them down, then they've got every chance of winning the playoff final tomorrow. If not, if the Sheffield first line start to play with freedom, then they'll rack the points up, and I expect that Sheffield will win the game tomorrow.
Paul?
I think a lot of it, like Ian says, depends on Stewart. I mean, you look at the game tonight, there was no flapping about, there were no histrionics, there were no falling over for no apparent reason. He just gone on and played well. If he does that, he can frustrate him. Whether it's enough, I don't know.
Thanks, guys.
There's no place I'd rather be.
So hopefully that gives you a bit of a flavour of Saturday at the playoffs. Much beer was consumed by the two people who join me now. Mr. Aaron Lord.
Good evening.
Are you recovered?
Yep, I've not got the shakes now, so I'm all right.
And also joining us for this final show of the season is Mr. Paul Balm.
Hello.
Hello. So that was Saturday, the final. Coventry Blaze against the Sheffield Steelers. Coventry Blaze taking the trophy with a 4-2 victory. They raced into a 4-0 lead by the end of the second period with goals from Gertson, Tendler, Venus and Tate. Sheffield coming back into it in the third with 2 goals from their goal machine, Matteo Wa, who signed a 2-year contract for them this week, of course. It wasn't enough, and Coventry, deservedly I felt, went on and won the title. Aaron, do you share that view?
Yeah, I do 100%. For me, Coventry came out and, they really brought the intensity to the game and they caught Sheffield unaware, really, didn't they? And I think they were fully deserved of their victory. I don't think Sheffield can really have any complaints. And maybe surprising a little, actually, with how, the intensity from Coventry. We know that Chuck Webber's got them organised. We talk about that, on several podcasts gone by. But they really, they had a bit more oomph, a bit more, like I say, intensity and fully deserved in my view.
Paul, we talked earlier about how the second semi-final wasn't a great affair. It was quite a dull game, to say the least. It wasn't a classic. Do you think that might have helped the Blaze, though? Because even though it did go to overtime in the shootout, there wasn't a great deal of intensity in that second semi-final. So you wouldn't expect the tiredness to kick in like you would expect it to, and if it had been a really humdinger of a game like the first semi-final was, for example. Coventry really did come out with a huge amount of intensity that first period.
Yeah, absolutely. They came out with more than than I thought they would after a game like that. But I think you're right. The intensity wasn't there in that semi-final, along with any number of things like quality. Interest, anything like that. But the only they maybe didn't quite exert themselves as much as they could have done. But I think it was interesting to see how they were able to make the shift from the lack of intensity in that semi-final, the way they came out in the final. And I think, like Aaron said, that shocked Sheffield, because I thought Sheffield, especially that first period, the defence looked very shaky, and I think Coventry could have had 2 or 3, perhaps in that period alone. But it was very interesting the way they were able to change one to the other.
I mean, Aaron, we've said, given Chuck Webber a lot of plaudits over the past few weeks in the way he's turned this Coventry side into challengers. Good coaching, really, to sort of have Coventry ready for that Sheffield game. Because, as Paul says, I think they really, really did surprise the Steelers.
Well, yeah, I agree. I do think that maybe, like I said earlier, that Coventry have been very disciplined. And, let's be frank, they've been one of the form teams over the past couple of months, really, and you can tell that by how they got into the playoffs in the first place, and obviously the results right up until yesterday. But yeah, I think I expected Coventry and I predicted Coventry to win, but I didn't expect them to come out and necessarily play like they did, and maybe they did catch Sheffield a little bit cold, and maybe they were a little bit surprised with how they set up, and we'll say the word again, but the intensity that they brought to the game. But obviously a guy like Chuck Webber's history, his CV, he understands playoffs, and I think he called it correctly. I listened to an interview, I think it might have been with the guys from A View from the Bridge, and he was like, it's 60 minutes, our playoff final, whereas, you have to treat it like a game 7. And I think that obviously brings that experience to the Blaze, and he's, who would have thought that, 4 months ago that the Coventry Blaze would be going to the Continental Cup as playoff champions.
Looking at the game itself, and for the Blaze, the second period was an absolute corker for them, scoring 3 unanswered goals. But a couple of things that really, I think, killed off the Steelers. There was the Venus goal at 9:17 of the period where Mark Thomas made an absolute hash of it on his own blue line to send Venus in one-on-one, but lovely finish all the same. And then Ashley Tate scoring the fourth goal just a minute and 30 seconds later. And that really, really killed off the Steelers, didn't it, Paul?
It did. I mean, and there was that... Well, Mark Thomas will be having nightmares about that mistake for months to come, and if he's not, then he really should be. But like you say, a beautiful finish by Venus. I don't think anybody was expecting that. But one of the things I noticed after that goal, just before Ashley Tate scored, Jason Hewitt, the face-off was just outside the Blazers' defensive zone, but Jason Hewitt was skating up and down, obviously trying to wind Stewart up, getting really close to him, trying to wind him up, but it was quite obvious that that didn't work. They obviously thought, we've got to try something here. It didn't work, and that was the fourth goal, wasn't it? Really, well, that was the game done, really.
Into the third period, and we saw probably more of what the Steelers we were expecting and what we've seen from the rest of this season.
Cheating.
Yeah, we'll leave that on.
I'm back.
But of course, Steelers out shooting the Blaze 37-20, and I suppose anyone looking at it who'd not seen the game would probably think from that Steelers had dominated. But they only really turned up for that final 20 minutes. But I did think to myself when it went to 4-2, I thought that they could get something out of this, because despite giving the Blaze that 4-0 advantage, they do have the quality in that side to come back and punish teams. But in the end, it wasn't quite enough. But they were fairly dominant in that third period, Aaron.
Yeah, they were. But I think, look, Cov, they easily won the first two periods. They're 4-0 up. You've got Brian Stewart in goal. Even at 4-2, I felt that Sheffield left it too late. I know they've got the firepower and the strike force that they have and that FFR line, etc. But I would have been very surprised if Brian Stewart had let another 2 goals in minimum, to be honest. So I think Coventry did all the hard work in the first 2 periods, and you would have been very surprised for Sheffield not to at least turn up for one of the periods. And at the end of the day, especially in a playoff final, you've got to turn up for more than 20 minutes, and that is what cost Sheffield, really, because they left it far too late.
Of course, with it being the last game of the season, you expect Sheffield to really, really go for it for that final period. But Paul, were you surprised that they lifted Eunice so early with more than 3 minutes left?
Well, you've got to roll the dice, haven't you? I mean, I would sort of differ in my opinion from what Aaron was saying. I thought, they left themselves a good 10 minutes to score another 2 goals. And, I thought, maybe they've got a chance. I thought if they did, we'd be hearing about it for years. But no, I mean, it's a do or die situation at that point, and they needed those 2 goals. If they didn't get them, they didn't win. So yeah, why not pull them? I mean, look, a fair few years ago, I think it was the Newcastle, was it when they were the Jesters, that they pulled the keeper with 5 minutes.
That's right. Yes, yeah.
5 minutes to go and won the game.
I suppose at that time it was like, right, you're right, it was last roll of the dice. And
it would have been stranger if we were talking about them not doing it.
Well, we asked for some reflections and you sent them through about the playoff weekend. So Scott Antcliffe, who we heard from earlier before the first semi-final, he says it was great to see 5 different teams take the silverware on offer. Shows how far the league has come in terms of parity, and good reflection on how the season has panned out. Blaze worthy playoff final winners. They played for 60 minutes. Steelers played for 20. Webber has done an outstanding job, and I believe the way forward is for all teams to have a bench coach. It's more professional. Aaron, your thoughts on that? Because I know we was talking about Chuck Webber last night, and a lot of people were saying, and I think at the live show we did at the Bunkers yesterday, Paddy Smith was saying he's one of the hottest commodities in the league, and we need that sort of professionalism, a coach like that, because he's really shown the way.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily, just because Chuck Webber is in this league, he's more professional, because I think that's a disservice to, people like Corey Nielsen, because that's saying that he's not professional. I think Chuck Webber has more experience and is a more experienced hockey coach. So I know, obviously, TV's very own Neil Russell, he was talking about how the fact that he led Coventry off the bus, he got all the keys for the rooms in the hotel, told them when the meeting, etc. So in that sense, then maybe it is more professional, but that comes down to the experience that he's gained. So I think it's great for the league if we can attract more of these experienced coaches, but it's also money, isn't it? Because not every club in the Elite League can go out and afford a Chuck Webber or even maybe a bench coach. So it would be nice, but I think we'll get there eventually. It's just about growing the league, and what Chuck Webber has done will certainly help put that word out there, I would think.
Talking of coaching changes, of course, it was announced at the weekend that Ryan Finnerty would be staying on at the Braehead Clan for another 2 seasons. Paul, does that surprise you, or do you think it's the right thing for the Clan to do and keep that stability?
I think it would have been given the season that they've had, I think it would have been a very odd decision for them not to offer him the chance again next season. What I think is interesting is that the announcement today that Edinburgh have parted company with Richard Hartmaan after 4 years. But I think, looking at the comments that both Richard and Scott Neal have made, and I think it looks like, well, they're making it look like it's a mutual decision, and maybe it's almost a situation, the same sort of situation that we may find ourselves in. They obviously feel they've gone as far as they can and are looking to make a change.
Yeah, Aaron, did that Richard Hartmaan decision surprise you today, or do you think it is probably time that the Edinburgh Capitals went in a new direction?
Yeah, I'm not shocked to read that. 4 years at a club any club, to be honest, is a long time, and Hartmaan, obviously, if you go by the statement, he wants a fresh challenge, and I think obviously Edinburgh as a club they've improved, but now it's about potentially getting somebody that can take them to the another level, the next step, if you would. So I'm not 100% surprised, and just going back to your first question regarding Finner that you asked Paul, I think that's totally the right decision, to be fair, because Finner's given them CHL qualification. I know they were in positions where they could have got better, but I think it's all about stability, like you said, and I think the fact that it's a 2-year contract as well shows you that they agree with that. So I think that's good news for Braehead. Obviously, it's great news for Finner, but I'm not surprised about Richard Hartmaan now.
Another reflection from Panthers Banter, he thought the fans forum was quite good. Apparently it's going to be on YouTube soon, and he says he would love to see all clubs hold one mid-season. We've talked a lot recently about the interaction that there is between clubs and fans, especially the Panthers, and fan forums like that can only be a good thing.
If they're done properly, yes. I had my misgivings about the one this weekend, the way that you had to submit the questions you were going to ask. It all makes it feel like you're letting them prepare for it. I was disappointed to see that I don't think all the owners were there. Thought, an opportunity like this where you've got fans from all the teams, then I would have expected that, especially if the league want this to continue, that they would have made the effort to get all the people there. But if they're done properly, then this is the sort of thing everybody should be doing. That there are certain things that we as supporters shouldn't know about.
Yeah,
things like we can't get involved in picking the team, picking the players, the coaching staff, all this, that, and the other, because you'd never agree on anything, and that has to be somebody's job. But there are so many things, so many parts of the fan experience that the clubs really need to listen to what the fans are thinking about, what the fans are talking about. To be successful, you've got to understand the people you're selling to.
Of course, also taking place this weekend was the EPL Play-Off finals. Peterborough Phantoms coming out the winners there, so some Panthers old boys, Tom Norton and Mark Levers, winning the EPL playoffs with a 4-2 victory over the Manchester Phoenix. They also did it the hard way by beating the Telford Tigers in the semi-finals. So, Aaron, good to see our old boys getting a bit of silverware.
Yeah, well, at least somebody with some Panthers connection picked up a trophy this weekend. So, no, it's good. It's good for them, and maybe a slight surprise given, obviously the success that Telford have had, and Manchester are always there or thereabouts, aren't they? So, yeah, very good, I think, for the Phantoms, and obviously very pleasing for the ex-Panthers guys as well.
Of course, news coming out yesterday that there's a lot of confusion around whether Phoenix will be playing out of the Silver Blades rink next season. I don't know enough, and there has been a very short press release about it, which has led to a lot of confusion. Of course, this coupled with the fact that Tony Hand has retired as a player as well, and Wayne Scholes, who's the owner of the Telford Tigers, has bought a stake in the Phoenix and also in the Bracknell Bees a couple of weeks ago. So, Paul, we know that we have our problems with a lot of criticism for Neil Black for owning two clubs, but it seems to be that Wayne Scholes is trying to buy up the entire EPL at the minute.
Yes, he's trying to outdo him. He's got 3 clubs rather than 2, hasn't he? Yeah. It's difficult because for a sport to be taken seriously, I think when you look at it, you can't have one person owning multiple teams, because as soon as that happens, well, you've seen it with us and Brayhead. There's always the accusations that one's controlling the other and things like that. But we've also, on the other side of the coin, you've also got to be, realists. If there's, ice hockey does not have access to an unlimited pot of gold, and if there's somebody out there who wants to come in and put money into the teams, if that's what they're doing, then unfortunately you have to grab onto that and suffer the other consequences for it.
I mean, Aaron, what's your view on the whole situation?
It's a difficult one because there's not a lot of people out there with the financial backing knocking on the door saying I either want to invest in your club or buy your club and stuff. So you have to give people like Neil Black, for example, credit in that they're either investing in one club or they are owning another club. It's not ideal, you'd want 10 owners for the 10 teams in the Elite League to say, and the same in the EPL, but unless there's people out there that have pots of cash willing to invest, then it's going to always be a struggle. But I don't have a massive issue with it. It would just be nice to not be in that situation.
Okay, thanks for the moment, guys. We're going to answer some of your Ask CWTV questions. Thanks once again for sending them in. And we're going to start with Undercover Puck, who's asking about Brian Stewart. He says, would we sign Brian Stewart if Killer Kowalski isn't available? But we also had another question about Brian Stewart, and if I can quickly find it, that comes from Alan. Alan, he says, would Stewart actually sign for us? Does he need to? After all the "it's all your fault" winds up, would he? So I suppose a couple of questions there about Brian Stewart. So first off, would you have Brian Stewart if Kowalski wasn't going to come back? Aaron, I think we'll go with you first.
Yes, I would, yes. You're looking at the best netminder in this league. Has won so many games for the Coventry Blaze. Yes, he's how do you put it? Just a little bit eccentric, maybe. That's probably putting it mildly, but he's a bloody good netminder as well. So and they're hard to find, netminders. If you look at, we've had Modic this season. Belfast have had to get a shoe back. Obviously, Eunice came in for Steelers, and they have good games here and there, but over a long season, Brian Stewart's been the top for me. So in that way, yes, I would have him. And then just to answer the second part of the question, I don't think the Panthers fans shouting "it's all your fault" would stop a guy from signing for us. Really, at the end of the day, it's all pantomime, isn't it? They know that. I think it's all part of the fun, to be honest. But I don't expect us to have Brian Stewart in between the pipes come September for the Panthers.
Paul, same question.
I'm more likely to say yes now than I would have been 3 months ago. Because I think, whilst you're right, Aaron's right, he will win games for you. There've been times when we've seen when he's lost games for them. Cometh the hour, cometh the man. And, he stepped up at the end, like a lot of players on that team, he stepped up at the end of the season. But Aaron's right, Woody signed for us because we shouted a few things at him. Come on, surely he's been a player, a professional long enough to understand that if the opposition fans are trying to get on his back, then he must be doing the right thing. Or probably in the case of some bit the wrong thing, but I would have not. I mean, look at the past. How much did we hate Rick Brabant before he joined us?
True.
And after, when he left, and I was never that keen when he was here. But these things happen. That so many times you see. Well, if they're shouting abuse at me, it's because I'm winding them up, and I love doing that. That for me is utterly irrelevant. It's all about. Initially, it's all about Kowalski. Whether he comes back, I would still have him over Stewart because I think he's probably more dependable. But after that, then the only consideration really for them is going to be money.
Richard Martin, he says, do you think Sheffield will suffer the CHL effect and therefore not defend their title? So, Aaron, you first with that one.
Well, I have a bit of not an issue, but this whole CHL, and it's the reason that we didn't do very well this season, and that I don't really buy that. So
I'd agree with you completely.
I'm not really sure what the actual CHL effect is. So Rich, you'll have to tweet me and tell me what the CHL effect is. But look, at the end of the day, the Steelers, they've just re-signed, as you announced earlier, and everybody will know, they've re-signed Matthew Roy for another 2 years. He's the Elite League, he's been the star of this Elite League. You can't argue that. So they're, in that aspect, they've kept a major part of this season's team already, for the CHL. And I think the CHL format has changed from what Panthers fans, experienced. There's less teams in a group, which means less games. So I think you're only playing 4 games instead of 6, if that's right. So I'm not really sure that the CHL is going to have a massive effect for teams. I don't think you're going to see what you saw with the Panthers when they went out and signed a lot of people to CHL contracts. I think what Sheffield and Braid will be looking to do is just have a strong Elite League squad that can at least compete with some teams and give these other teams in the CHL a game. I don't think you're going to see people sign just for the CHL due to the fact of the change of format. So I don't think Sheffield will suffer a CHL effect. I'm not 100% sure they'll win the title next season. There's a lot of people, yet to be signed in all the teams, and a lot of decisions to be made to see what's going to happen next season. But the short answer is no.
I don't think it will, especially with the fact that I think the games are being moved. Also, all the games will be played before the start of our season.
Yeah, and they've changed it, so there's only 4 group games as opposed to the 6 that we had. Yeah.
So essentially, it's just a pre-season warm-up, and I like Aaron says, I can't see anybody going down the road we went of the extra players. And I think whilst we thought at the time that was necessary, I think it probably, in the wonders of hindsight being 2020 and everything, that I don't think that was the right thing to do. I think it might have had an unsettling effect. These players were in and out, but no, I think the whole sort of CHL effect, whatever it is, has been overplayed.
Okay. Next question, and that comes from my wife, bless her. You sent one in.
I wonder why you're reading that.
Favouritism, obviously.
Yeah. Anything for a quiet life.
Well, of course, especially now. So, as there's been 5 different trophy winners and Hull made the Final 4, has this been the most competitive Elite League season?
Yes, it has, yeah. I think even if maybe, 4 teams had won trophies, I still think overall, if you look at the games that we've had, the fact that the league went down to pretty much the last weekend, and you've had people like Braehead up the top looking like they were champions elect, as people were saying, to then not win. The resurgence of Cardiff Devils, obviously. I think overall it's been one of the most competitive Elite League seasons that I can remember, for sure.
Yeah, I probably agree, but there is one thing. I thought there was 6 trophies in the season this year. Why is she not mentioning the Napoleon Cup?
Prestigious international tournament.
Yeah, and one of the highlights of our season, unfortunately. But I think it's right. You've seen some of the clubs in the sort of the lower end make steps up. Unfortunately, you've seen Dundee this season just gone, go the other way. And I think as well, to an extent, you've seen the top teams. I think there's not quite been the quality that we've seen from the winners in previous years. I mean, I don't think, although it has been very close, I don't think in terms of the quality it's been a classic season. You only have to, Sheffield fans will probably not like that, but all they've got to do is go on their own form, go back to December when we beat them a couple of times, and it was like watching Chicken Little run round, tell everybody the sky was falling in. Looks like, and like him, they were wrong as well.
Just on that, though, sorry, Jono, I think Paul makes a good point regarding the overall quality of the league. We are saying, well, I think both me and Paul have said that, it probably has been the most competitive. But I also agree with Paul in the sense of the quality that we've seen. We've had better quality in previous seasons as well. So it might have been competitive, but is it competitive, or has it been competitive because not really one team is of such a high quality that they've run away with stuff? So I thought that was a good point, actually, what Paul made.
Before we have our final question, which I believe has been sent to you, Aaron, a couple of the more light-hearted ones that we've received today. So David Carnell, he says, how many assists will Tony Hand get next season, even though he's retired?
I think he's got a postcard number out the air. None of us would be anywhere near it.
Yeah, I would think
far more than we'd think.
I think at least 20 he's going to get.
Oh no!
And of course, Aaron, you I think you impressed a lot of people this weekend with your dancing and officiating. So Daniela Dutton says, are you considering a career change after your very convincing officiating display this weekend?
Well, if somebody can teach me how to skate backwards, then you never know.
Well, it never affected my rec career, so...
having What career?
Yeah.
To be honest, having seen him, I think he's more like, having seen his officiating skills, I think he's more likely to become hockey's new Louis Spence. Move on to the next question.
Yes, darling, it's great, to be honest.
And now back to the serious stuff. So, Aaron, I believe you've had a question sent to you.
Yes, I have, yes. It's from a good friend of mine, Mr. Paul Gretton. He sits in front of me. Didn't manage to say bye to you, Paul, so I hope all you lot have a lovely summer. But he asked, if Corey is not back next season, would we like Rick to be given a chance as head coach? We could then go with an assistant play/coach. Discuss. So, Jono, what do you reckon to that?
No, is my straight answer.
Okay, thanks for that, Paul. What do you reckon?
I agree with Jono.
No.
Oh, okay, well, thanks for all your questions on SWCTV.
No, my reason being that, I remember when he was head coach at Hull and it wasn't a successful tenure that he had there. He tended to play, and I suppose he had budget constraints at that time at Hull, but he tended to play a very defensive, boring style of hockey. I think Rick Strachan's position is as a number 2, and I think he does a brilliant job, and I think the support he's given to Corey and just someone to bounce those ideas off, I think he's been absolutely superb for us. If Corey goes, I wouldn't be against Rick staying as the assistant coach, but I think that's where he has the most value. I don't think if he was made the head coach of the Panthers, I just don't think it would be that successful or that good. I mean, if it happens, I hope I'm very, very wrong, but I would like to see someone of the calibre of Chuck Webber as Panthers coach, but absolutely nothing against Rick staying as the assistant, because I think is where he can offer the most value for us.
Paul, what do you reckon?
Disappointingly, I think I agree with pretty much everything Jono says, except for one thing, and that's about him staying. I think it very much depends on the new coach coming in, if there is one, and whether they want somebody. It shouldn't just be a case of the club says Rick's staying on. It's got to be the new coach's decision. We've got to put it has everything to do with the playing has to be the coach's decision, and if that means a clean slate, then so be it.
Aaron, what about you?
To be honest, I see Rick and Corey as like as a pair. Really, I can't see one without the other, and I can't see if Corey was to leave, to then Rick step up. And I fully agree with what Paul's just said there. If Corey is not coach next season, then it's up to the new guy who he wants. Who he wants as his assistant, or even if there is an assistant, there might be a player assistant, or if it was, say, a Chuck Webber, then he might just go on his own. It's one of those things that we are going to have to wait in the summer to see where we are. But I wouldn't want to see, for whatever reason, Corey not here next season and Rick Strachan as number 1, to be honest. I agree with you. I think he's a number 2, but I just see Corey and Rick as a duo. I don't look at them as singular people now, to be honest.
Okay. All right, well, thanks very much for sending your questions in once again, and we will be continuing at CWTV when we are back next season. Obviously, no games to look forward to because the season's over, but there is, of course, the Great Britain games that will be taking place this week, Thursday and Friday, NIC on Thursday, Coventry Sky Dome on Friday, and they will be against Poland, so get down to them and support the British boys if you can. So guys, before we go, just some quick reflections on the season, so and probably a look ahead to next. So Paul, we'll start with you. So try and sum up, if you can, the season just gone overall, and what would you like to see next season?
Well, like I said earlier, I don't think it's... Well, yeah, 'cause what you're basically doing is you're ending on a high note, aren't you? Yeah.
Come on, Paul, give us some positivity.
Positive. I'm glad it's all over, to be honest. It's not been a classic. It's, in a lot of ways, it's been one to forget, but you've just got to learn the lessons from it and move on.
Greatly summed up there.
Was that cheerful enough for you?
No. But I wouldn't expect anything less from you, my friend. Well, look, I don't think this season, has been as atrocious as everybody says. We were very close in certain areas, and if it wasn't for, say, the month of February or a very, very poor Challenge Cup second leg semi-final, then things might have been a little bit different. But like I said yesterday in the bunkers, I feel that we need to kind of press the refresh button. I think over these last 2 years we've kind of lost our way with the style of hockey that we've seen. I think we need to get back to the Panthers' way of playing ice hockey. I don't think a lot of people would have been so critical if the style of play was different, but like Paul says, you have to learn from the mistakes and learn from this season, and I think we will as a club. And there's a lot of decisions to be made, which we'll see over the summer. I think we need to recruit a better side, if I'm 100% honest. But my main focus would be to get back to playing the kind of hockey that we've been used to seeing over the years under the Nielsen era. Doesn't mean we're going to win trophies, but it might mean that we might enjoy more hockey games.
I mean, I think for me, like you, I don't think it's as atrocious as some have made out. There's been quite a few highlights. We were in the running in February, which hasn't happened much over the past few seasons, apart from the couple of seasons ago when we did win the league. Next season, I think it all depends on who the coach is. I hope if we do get a new coach, he's given a fair ride and given a fair chance. It's not, right, this is now your team and you are expected to deliver the league title straight away. I don't think that's fair. I would like to see a coach come in, if we do have a new coach, and be given, say, a 2 or 3 year contract to bring in his team and really put his own stamp on it, and then probably have a target that within them 3 years to win a league title, and maybe win a playoff in the Challenge Cup as well. I think that would be far more realistic than expecting someone to come in and just immediately sweep up everything. So I think it could be an exciting time for the Panthers coming up. We'll see if Corey stays. I'll be happy if he is. If he doesn't, I'll wish him the best of luck, and it'll be interesting to see who does take over if it comes to that. So.
Well, I think that's got to be, that decision is the one that everybody's talking about, isn't it? And I think, obviously, like you said, that if it is a new man or a new coach, then they need to be installed sooner rather than later, so they can recruit their own team. The only thing that I would slightly disagree on is I wouldn't expect them to win everything, but let's be honest, the Panthers organisation usually gives, the coach and the setup is there to challenge. So whether it's Corey Nielsen or whether it's Bill Bob, they need to be competing. That we need to be challenging for the major trophies.
So you've heard it from Aaron Law first. Bill Bob will be our new coach next season, or the very
stick a tenner on it.
Guys, thank you very much for joining us for the last one of the season.
Absolute pleasure.
No problem at all.
Can I just say, why is Andy Haywood not here?
Well, I believe he's in New York. I mean, he's not. He's not mentioned it.
He's not told anybody.
He's not told anyone. But I believe he got there safe and well this afternoon. So hope he has a nice time if he's listening. But if you are listening, why are you spending time on your holiday in New York listening to a podcast? Guys, thank you very much. Thank you to everyone who's listened throughout this season. We really do appreciate it. We'll hopefully have a couple of shows over the summer as all the news comes in and Panthers make signings, and we'll see if we have a change of coach. I'm sure that'll hopefully be announced sooner rather than later if it is. And hopefully going to get some interviews lined up throughout the summer, some one-on-one interviews. So stay tuned for that. But all it remains to say is, hope you've enjoyed the season. Thank you very, very much for listening, and we'll see you next year.